I'm about to reveal to you how you can find the best hairstylist for you. Yes, I'm gonna answer the #1 question that I get asked, which is, can you recommend somebody around me to do my hair? Now, in this video, I'm also gonna break down some key things that you may be saying to your stylist currently that are causing you to not love your hair. Some key words that you wanna stay away from, and some maybe misconceptions about stylists in general that are also leading you in the wrong direction. We're about to talk about all that, and we're gonna do it from here. Did I not promise you better views as we were on the road traveling? Did I? Well, that view doesn't suck, and I'm not gonna lie, the views you're gonna see here in a minute are gonna get a whole lot better. So, yeah, let's get on with the video. Oh, if you're new to me, my name is Justin Hickox. I've been doing hair since 1995, and, well, I prefer to take you on adventures while I teach you about hair. It just looks a lot better than sitting in front of a white wall in the middle of my salon, so that's what I do. Same info, just better views. Okay, so this is how this video is going to go down. I'm going to share, first of all, some misconceptions that you may have about stylists or salons right now that could be leading you in the wrong path. Then I'm going to talk about some verbiage that you want to stay away from, as well as some words that you can use to help kind of describe what you're talking about so you can get more towards a style that you love. And then I'm going to share my kind of step-by-step process on how I would recommend that you go about finding a stylist. Now, I also, at the very end of this, have something very special where I'm going to be able to share specific stylists and salons that I recommend for you, so make sure you stick around so you can learn about that. For now, let's talk about some misconceptions. Okay, the first misconception is that price either equals a good stylist or a bad stylist, i.e., a more expensive stylist must be better, or a cheaper stylist must be worse. And here's where this goes completely wrong. Many times, stylists are charging what they charge based on the salon that they're working at. And it doesn't inherently mean that they have any real experience behind the chair. And at the same time, there may be a stylist who has had a large amount of experience behind the chair and just has always felt very awkward about raising their price, so they end up charging much less. You also have to take into consideration where you're at in the country and the price of the stylist kind of pinned up against stylists in other places. To give you kind of perspective, there were times in my career where I would have been charging $55, for instance, for a haircut. But if I had moved to New York at that time, because New York is a much higher priced area, I could have charged $400 or $500 for that same haircut. It doesn't mean that my skill set changed. It just meant that my demographics changed, and that can mean a lot. So just basing whether or not your stylist that you're going to go see is good based on their price or bad may be a very big mistake. The next major misconception is that all stylists speak the same language. I constantly get asked, hey, that haircut you just did, what would you call that? That layering you just did, what would you call that? How do I describe this to my stylist? The problem is there are many different ways to describe the same thing, and not all stylists speak the same languages. In fact, there are multiple different names for the same haircut. So while you might go in thinking that this particular layering technique or this particular haircut is called one thing, then you explain that to the stylist that you're seeing, they might have something completely different in mind, and next thing you know, you end up with something totally different than what you expected. So you definitely want to pay attention to the words that you use and how you use them. That's why in here just a little bit, we're going to walk through some words that you definitely want to stay away from, as well as some words that you can use that may help you kind of guide you in the right direction. Now, the next major misconception is that your friend's hairstylist will clearly work for you. So maybe you have a coworker or a friend that has a great style and you love their hair and you say, who do you go see? And then they give you that name and you just assume, well, they must be good at what they do because look how they did on your friend's hair. But the fact is that that very well could be very true. And many times that is actually a pretty good way to kind of lead you in the right direction. However, you also have to take into consideration that many times it may be just your friend's hair texture or that particular hairstyle or the hair color that your friend is getting that particular stylist kind of shines in, and that's really what they do their best work with. So, for instance, to make this very simple, maybe you've got very curly hair, and your friend has wavy at best hair. And so their hairstyle looks amazing, and they always get the best cut. Well, that stylist that does your friend's hair may not be well-versed in extremely kinky, coily hair. And so even though they do an exceptional job on wavy, or maybe even straight hair as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that they inherently know how to address your hair as well. So not just finding a friend that has great hair, if you can find a friend that has the same texture of hair as you, or at minimum, a very similar color or a hairstyle that is similar to yours or the one that you want to move into, that would be a better start in terms of putting yourself in the right direction. Okay, now I want to move on to some key words and phrases that you want to be aware of and kind of careful of, as well as some kind of things you might be able to use to help you. But I definitely also want to switch backgrounds because while this one is amazing and does not, there are even better ones to be seen, so let's go find them. Okay, so let's talk about some words that you should be careful of. One word that I would say definitely you don't want to just blanket over to a stylist would be layered. All right, you might walk in and say, well, I want my hair to be layered. Okay, what you have to understand is that there are so many different ways to layer hair. So if you just stop at saying, I want layers, it's a bit saying like, well, I want the temperature to be nice. Well, what's nice? So you may want the back of your hair, for instance, just to be slightly beveled. You might just want it to lay in a little bit, not be quite so full around the nape, but you just blanket out the words that say, I want a lot of layers in the back. Then you just end up with a bunch of layers in the back that doesn't have anything to do with beveling, isn't at all what you wanted, and you just ended up with something you hate. Okay, now the next key kind of phrase or word you want to stay away from is just telling your stylist that you don't want your hair to be thinned out or texturized. And the reason that this is a concern is because you may have had your hair thin in the past or texturized in the past, and it was just done incorrectly. And to be completely honest with you, it's pretty easy to do it incorrectly. And if it is done incorrectly, then you could end up with a result that you absolutely hate. However, it may be a situation where texturizing or thinning is exactly what your hair needs. It just needs to be done the right way. So you want to be careful or shy away from explaining to your stylist technical words of what you want or don't want, because it doesn't really give them the opportunity to do what you may need. I can't tell you how many times I've had a client sit in my chair and say, I don't want my hair texturized or thinned because I've had it done in the past and it was horrible. And I'm looking at it saying the absolute best possible thing that we can do to your hair to blend everything and make it all flow well is to texturize those ends. It just needs to be done correctly. And if it was done incorrectly, I fully am aware and totally understanding of your major concern. However, pigeonholing your stylist into not doing that could be a huge upset in your overall result. To kind of piggyback off of that, the next thing you want to be kind of concerned about is just saying, don't use this or that particular tool. Don't use thinning shears. Don't use a razor, because again, it's been done in the past and it was terrible. This is the same situation where maybe it was used incorrectly. A perfect example of this is the razor. There are many different ways to use a razor on hair, and there are many textures that I would just stay away from using a razor in general. However, even within those particular textures, there are still times where a razor actually is the most effective and efficient tool I can use to get the best result for the client. So it really isn't the tool, it's the tool in the right hands. And that's what all this is about, right? This whole video is about helping you find that stylist that understands how to texturize, how to thin, how to use a razor, how to use texturizing shears, how to use clippers on a bob haircut, which I do all the time. Stuff you wouldn't imagine being used in particular situations, but may be the best thing for your hair. So be shy of that. But now let's kind of switch over and start talking about some words that you can use, and more importantly, how you can use them. One word that you can use is to describe the length that you want. And what you can say is, I want my hair to be this length, right? No shorter than this, no longer than this. That describes your overall baseline. That's actually a very good word to use because it's really kind of giving the boundaries to the stylist. I don't want my hair any shorter than this length, right? So that is definitely a word you can use. Now the next one would be front layers. Any face framing layers, anything in the front is going to be referred to as a front layer. So regardless of the way they approach the front layering process, these are all called front layers. Now that is different than bangs. Bangs is just one little section of stuff in the front that is an actual bang, but it's not actually layered. The layers kind of come into play when you're talking about actually what connects your bangs into your length. So you can say front layers. And the next thing that you can use is layers on the top or internal layers. Now, some stylists refer to them different ways. I refer to them as internal layers. Anything that's up here is an internal layer or layer on the top. So you can say, I don't want my layers on the top to be any shorter than, let's say, the top of my ear, for instance. So those are words that you can use, but it's the other ones you want to be a little bit careful of. Now, another word that you could use is shattered. And what shattered means is that your hair is too thin in an area. So let's imagine, for instance, that you wanted your hair to look really thick. You want that line to be really strong. Maybe you're going for a bob line and you want it to be a really strong, thick bob line. Or maybe you're trying to get length and you just want that length to look really full. Then what you don't want is that you don't want it to be shattered at the bottom. You want a very strong line at the bottom. Now, maybe you do want a lot of texture and you do want that to look very scraggly and thin at the bottom. Well, then in that scenario, you do want it to be shattered. So you actually can say, yes, I want my length to be very shattered and scraggly and piecey. And will tell them this is a process I'll need to do to layer your hair to get that result. Or I do not want my length to look piecey or shattered. I want it to look very thick and full. Then that will tell them I can't layer this hair down there because otherwise it's going to look shattered. So shattered is another word that we can't use. But now, with all that said, let's dive into my process on how you can find the best hairstylist for yourself. And then I'm going to reveal how you can actually access the list of all the salons that I would currently recommend for you to go see. So simplify this whole process in this video for you in just a minute. The first step in finding the stylist that's best for you is to figure out what direction you want to head. Now, I know people always say, well, I want the stylist to determine what's best for me. And that is fine. Your stylist is going to give you input. But most importantly, you need to know what direction you're trying to head. Because if you don't have a direction, this is a recipe for potential disaster, especially when you're talking to stylists that you don't know. So one way you do this is you start to find photos, find pictures of things that you like and things that you don't like. It doesn't have to be, I love this bob shape. It can simply be that I like the bangs on this haircut and I like the length on this one. These bangs are too short. This length is too long, right? Figure out what you like and what you don't like and get those pictures ready so that you can take them to your stylist and have a better conversation using those to be your words. Now, once you have your pictures in hand, you're going to head over to the Google and you're going to Google salons near me. Now, one thing you want to pay attention to is you want to look at the reviews, but you don't want to gauge everything on the reviews. Look at the reviews and kind of get a gauge for how they do. What are people saying? But you also want to look at the actual photos of the salon. Now, when you've gone through and you've figured out, okay, this seems to be maybe a salon that's a good fit, or maybe you found a few different salons, you take those and you go to their website. Now, on their website, you're going to scroll through the website and you're going to scroll to the bottom where the contact info typically is, and you're going to find their links to their different social media channels. If they have an Instagram page, you're going to go to their Instagram page and you're going to start looking through the work that they do and get a better understanding if that person or that salon does the kind of work that's going to make sense for your hair. I want you to ignore if it looks pretty. I want you to pay attention to your specific haircut that you're going for, or your hair texture, or maybe the color that you want, and find out if they're doing that kind of work well. Now also, if this is Instagram, for instance, you might find at the very top that it actually lists what they specialize in, right? I'm a stylist known for blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's balayage, maybe it's color, maybe it's bob shapes, maybe it's long haircuts, maybe it's short haircuts, barbering, whatever it is. And that's going to help you kind of determine if one of those things is something that you're looking specifically for with your hair. So you're going to use those keywords to kind of help you determine if this is the right stylist and or salon for you. Now, once you've found out the information you're looking for and you think maybe you've narrowed it down to a couple salons or maybe a salon or stylist that you like, you're going to call that salon and you're going to ask for a senior stylist. If it's not an actual stylist that you found, you're going to call and ask for a senior stylist. When you ask for a senior stylist, this is important because what it means is the person they're going to schedule you with is likely somebody that has been there for a while. So regardless of what they charge, they've been at the salon a while, they know how to build a clientele, and if they know how to build a clientele, then they likely understand client retention, and client retention is based on happy clients, people that return because they like the job that was done the first time. So this is an important factor. Now, regardless if it's a salon that you're going to book with or you found a particular stylist that you're going to book with, either way, once you have those things figured out, when you call, you also want to book an appointment, but you want to book an appointment for a consultation. Now, most reputable salons are going to have complimentary consultations, but if it doesn't, spend the 10 or 15 bucks, whatever they want you to spend, and go through the consultation. That means that you're going to sit down with the stylist, you're going to meet them, you're going to go through this process with them, talk about your hair, talk about what's going on, and you're going to get a good feel on whether or not you trust or don't trust them. And you have no obligation at that point to get your hair done if you do feel uncomfortable. So it's a good way to give yourself an out. But if you do feel comfortable, then you book an appointment, maybe they even have time right then, and you get business taken care of. With all that said, this is the process that I currently use while we're on the road to try to figure out who's going to cut my hair. Because I used to have a salon that I go to, but now, oddly enough, being thousands of miles away, I don't go to that salon, which was me. I go to different salons, so yes. And going to different salons allows me to add to this list I have been talking to you about. So I have created a list of salons that I would recommend that you can access simply by going to the link below. There's a link in the description below that will actually give you access to my list, which I will be continuously adding to over time, especially as we travel more, so that you, regardless of what state you're in, can hopefully find a salon or a stylist that you can go to that's close to you. It's very simple. The list is actually broken up in alphabetical order by state. So you scroll down, you find the state or your state or state closest to you. And then there's going to be a salon listed there. There's already a clickable link to their website. So you click on that so you don't have to search the Google to find it. And boom, there you go. And the best part about this list is it is totally free. I'm not even charging for it. Now, with that said, if there's a little super thanks button right down here, if you do feel pulled to donate for any reason to support the channel, you can just click on that, write a little comment, and there you go, to show some support. But again, you don't have to. And as this view shows you, like I said before, we are traveling, so I will also leave a link below where you can find our other channel where my wife and I are actually sharing all about our travels around the United States. That's a whole story within and of itself. So join us, hang out, and subscribe to this channel and all the YouTube stuff. Okay, bye-bye. And I've got two little guys out here that have come to say hello. Let's see if we can see them. Hey boys, come over here so everyone can see you. Guys, come here. Hey, Bubba's. All right. Well, they have come to say hi, so I think that's my cue to leave you with the view. And that is what we'll do. I'm a rhymer. I'm a rapper. I'm a rapper. Woohoo! Okay, here you go. Here you go. Ready for the view? There you are. I feel like the name. Come on, folks. Tell me that sucks. 'Cause that's